Hello, everyone. It is Tanisha, and welcome to the Aha Experience podcast. This podcast, we delve into topics that hopefully will help you have your aha moments that will lead to you living a more blissful life. Hello, guys, and welcome to the Aha Experience podcast. This is Tanisha, and I am excited about today's topic. Today's topic is about knowing your worth versus knowing you're worthy. What's the difference between those two statements? So back in the day, a couple of years ago, because I've been on a long journey and I'm still on my journey, and I really enjoy the processes that I'm going through. I used to hate being in the process, and so I would try to avoid the process and instead end up creating more chaos in my life. And so now I have been fully embracing the journey and the process that I'm going through of shedding off things that don't serve me at all. And so one of the things that I used to always say, and I used to be a promoter of, is, girl, you got to know your worth. You got to know your value. And over the last couple of years, I would even say the last year and a half or so, I'm starting to understand how much of a fallacy or a lie or disservice it is to say, know your worth. I began to understand over time, it wasn't that I needed to know my worth. What I needed to know was that I was worthy. I suffered a lot from what we call imposter syndrome. Okay, I used to really struggle that I would end up in these places. I used to really struggle with the fact that I would end up in places that I felt or believed, or perhaps it was ingrained into me that I was not supposed to be. And so I would always feel like an imposter in these spaces. And then what I took on was this egocentric idea of knowing my worth. I needed to know that I was valuable, or that I had worth in order to be in those spaces. But what was going on with this whole idea of knowing my worth is I was actually covering up the way that I really felt. I was covering up my insecurities. I was putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. And it wasn't until recently that it started to sink in. What I actually needed to understand was I needed to understand that I was worthy. And when you understand that you are worthy, there is nothing you can do that increases or decreases your value, or increases or decreases your purpose. It's not something that you have to earn. It is something that you understand that you're born into. So let me break down what I mean by that. So what is the difference between knowing your worth and knowing you're worthy? Well, in my opinion, knowing your worth is it frames you as an object. Okay, so knowing your worth frames you as an object that can be devalued. So your value goes up and down based on what you do. So your accomplishments, who you are, whether that means that you are black or white or woman, man, child, adult, whether you have an education, whether you have experience, whether, you have been a Miss Goody Two Shoes all your life or have not. And so it requires you to put an arbitrary value on yourself. Okay, so it frames you as an object. And my keen understanding about life is we need to de-objectify ourselves. So knowing your worth makes you objectify yourself in a way. So now you are an object that has a value that can increase or decrease, depreciate or appreciate at any point in a given time. And sometimes you don't even know when it happens. You just find yourself in the middle of a shitstorm and you're like, well, how did I get here? Well, you got there because you put a price tag or a value on yourself. You've objectified yourself. Versus knowing you're worthy. Knowing you're worthy implies that there is nothing you can or cannot do or have done to be honored. Okay? It is a birthright. You are worthy by the simple fact that you were born. You are worthy by the simple fact that you are here to express your divine nature, your authentic self. And therefore, there is nothing you yourself can do that will create any value to you. So knowing your worth is based on external attributes. Knowing you're worthy is an internal conversation. And in order to understand that you are worthy, you must be willing to strip away all of the attributes that are external to you, the things that you possess, the things that you have achieved, your accomplishments, the experiences you have had. You have to be willing to strip those away and strip all the way down to the person that you were when you were born, the person that you have always been under the fluff. And so wanted to really have this conversation because I think it builds on the last two conversations that I had this podcast. And like I said, this podcast is all about, or the AHA experience is all about hopefully inspiring or having these situations where something clicks for you, where you're looking for something. Because I know for me, I've been looking for a very long time, and there will be these moments where someone would say something, or I'll watch something, or I'll hear a song, or I'm sitting in a lecture or something, and it clicks. Some of the information that I had been thinking but couldn't understand why I knew it or explain it. And then there would be a moment where someone would say something and it will just click into place, which what Oprah would say would be an aha moment. And so the reason why I do this podcast, and eventually, actually this weekend, I'm going to start recording with other people. I've already reached out to several people now. And so we're going to be bringing some great content to you about life. You know, life is all about living a blissful existence. It's all about walking in authenticity, walking in the beautiful, unique expression that you are, what you bring to the world, without the conditionings, the social, the familial, the societal conditionings that are placed upon you. And that would mean that you will have to literally walk away from everything that is external to you. I'm not saying like give things up. I'm not saying become a monk. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying not putting value on things that are external to you. So another thing that I wanted to talk about is, again, knowing your worth versus knowing you're worthy. Another point that I would like to make about this is knowing your worth is based on conditionings, right? So how are we conditioned into these things? So when it comes to knowing your worth, right? In a lot of societies, if you base your worth on your external value, so in some societies, if you're a woman, you're considered less than a man. In some societies, if you are black or brown, you're considered less than white. In some society, if you're Christian, you're considered less than a Jew or Muslim, or vice versa, or Buddhist or vice versa. And so if you notice, when you place your value on these external things, your value goes up and down. Your understanding of yourself can be triggered, or your understanding of yourself can go down, or I'm trying to think of another word besides go down in value. You can see yourself in a very different light when you are valuing who you are based on what people tell you, what society tells you, what your family tells you, your friends tell you. But when you understand that you are worthy and know that there is absolutely nothing you can do or don't do that will make you less worthy, that understanding makes you internally strong. It makes you courageous. It makes you authentic. It makes you take risks. And it makes you not care really about what people may say about you. It takes on a different flavor, a different experience, a different understanding of the world. I have been working very hard. I haven't gotten there yet, but I've worked very hard because I was such a social justice warrior for a while, and I remember falling into deep depression because I began to understand that the systems are in place for a reason. They cannot be broken. They cannot be destroyed. When we think we destroy the system just evolves into something even more sinister. And I remember fighting for women's rights. I'm not saying I'm fighting, but I was very much into empowering women and young girls, and also empowering Black people. I got from a distance involved with the Black Lives Matter. I wasn't someone who was marching or anything, but I would have conversations. And I begin to realize I was talking to a wall most of the time because, people have their attitudes, and most people's attitudes are not changed. Their beliefs are not changed. No matter what information you give them, they will find something else that would allow them to be comfortable in their thinking or their conditioned thinking. And so I started to step away from that. That doesn't mean I don't recognize that I'm a woman. I was born a woman. Okay. I feel very much attached to my femininity, but me being a woman does not increase or decrease my value. Being a woman does not make me worthy or less worthy. Being a woman has nothing to do with this expression that I'm living. It's just an experience that I'm having on this plane. Being Black and dark-skinned Black has its own conditioned thinking, especially when you're from the South like I am. Being a dark-skinned Black woman, you hear people say stuff like, well, you're pretty for a dark-skinned girl, or you don't have any value because you're dark-skinned. Really? Really, people? I grew up in Texas where all the cheerleaders were blonde, okay? Like super blonde, and if they weren't born blonde, they became blonde, And so you're seeing these images that don't look like you. So does that mean you have less value or that you're less worthy? No. So when you begin to understand that it's best to not place your worthiness on something so minute, inconsequential, it takes on a different mindset and framework. You begin to live life a lot more differently. And I would even say for me, I begin to live life more intentionally, because when you are worried about your value or your worth, then you're going after things that will elevate you externally, right? So for me, it was, I need to make more money. I need to be around the right people. I need to be friends with this person. Or whatever. Actually, I never thought that way. I didn't care. I'm gonna be real honest. I never really cared about who people were. I didn't give a damn. It was like, but what kind of person are you? Was more my thing. But money was major for me. And I would chase money like you would not believe. Not in my relationships, not in people around me, but for myself. And I would run myself ragged. And guess what? I never got any more money. So why was I doing that? And so you'll find, like, how you meet those, I call them the bourgeois people, the bougie people. They may come from low means in life. and they will crush, run over, throw you up against the wall, backstab, whatever, to get to this place where they are rich because they see money as power, because they felt powerless being born into their situation, not understanding that they're compensating for this feeling of less than because of the status that they had at birth. And so for them, they have been living a life on a premise that they must know their worth versus they are worthy to, one, be in any place they want to be, whether it's at the top tier of society as far as money goes, or CEO of this or CEO of that, or doctor, nurse, lawyer, whatever they feel will make them be better, right? Better than others, better than what they were. When you are having these sort of thoughts, I need to be better than what? You are you. You are you. You are a magnificent, beautiful, outstanding, amazing sparkle in this universe. We are all made from the same stardust, and we are all sparks of the divine. I do not need to be better than anything. What's better than that? And so as I begin to walk this journey further, I begin to shed with the processes or the things that I've been learning, the experiences that I've been having, that, you know what, Tanisha, you were born to do what you do. You were born who you are. And there is no need for me to cover that up. There's no need for me to hide it. There's no need for me to improve upon it. And you don't see me doing my air quotes, but what I mean by improve upon it is, gain certain external measurements to make me look or feel better. Instead, I just embrace who I am. And it has taken me a very long time to say that I embrace everything that I am. I'm not trying to change it for anybody. The only thing that I want to do is be, now here's where I use the term better, a better person. And the way that I view being a better person for me is me stripping away everything that does not allow me to fully express who I really am. So any social, familial, whatever sort of conditionings or thought patterns or behavior patterns that keep me bound to these external ideals, I want to be able to just continue to constantly strip them away. I've fallen off the horse with my yoga, so I'm looking forward to getting back to that, because every single time I do yoga, it's not for my body really, it's really for my mind. It's to clear the space in my head, that I have the constant nagging of thoughts that come from voices outside of myself that tell me I'm not worthy. It allows me to understand that who I am is who I chose to be before I was even born. And I am excited to be able to be Tanisha. And even that is, my name can even limit me. I'm excited just to be me, right? And so I created this podcast because I really wanted to inspire people to look at themselves clearly and honestly and begin to walk away from everything. And what I mean by walk away, like I said before, is to strip it away everything that they believe they have to have in order to have value or to feel good about themselves. Because when things change, or if, say, those things are externally stripped away, then what? I want to tell you a story. One of the things, so it's not that I want to tell you a story, actually. I'm going to give you some steps and really honoring yourself, okay? When you honor yourself, you allow yourself to be who you truly are, whatever that is. Some people are just born to be assholes. Some people are born to do what they do, okay? But let's be real. Most of us, when we are being jackasses, and I know for me, when I was a jackass and when I was not a very kind person, it was a mask that I was wearing. I was compensating for a feeling of unworthiness. Yeah. So how can you go through the process? So one of the things that I said was I do yoga, and not the yoga that we do in the West where it's all athletic and you're trying to get a yoga butt and a yoga body. That's not the point of yoga, actually. The point of yoga really is to help you become aware of your thoughts in your mind and basically connect your mind and your body and your soul into one place. And so that you are able to strip away the non-essential things. Okay. So that's the real purpose of yoga, at least in ancient India. Right. So yoga was one of the things I do. There are other things you can do besides yoga. So say if you're not a yogi, some people don't want to do yoga. What else can you do? Kung Fu, Tai Chi. These are arts that are ancient that were based in this understanding of connecting to your divine self. And I'm sure there's many other capoeira. There are many other things out there. Belly dancing actually was one of them as well. A lot of people don't know that. One of the other beautiful things that I used to love to watch, that I know comes from a place of really connecting to your body, the whirling dervishes. I thought they were the most amazing. Every time I watch them spinning, it's just beautiful. It's such a beautiful experience. So that's one way. When I was at the ashram, one of the things that we did was a puja. Pujas, and the ones that we actually did was honoring the goddess within the woman. And the men would offer us these beautiful offerings, and we would do these mantras. And I have to tell you straight up, I used to always say, girl, I'm a goddess, I'm a queen, blah, 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 blah. I didn't really actually believe it when I would say it, but I wanted to, truly wanted to believe it. After doing those mantras and those pujas for 6 months, I don't believe it. I know it. It's a different experience because beliefs can change. Knowing something and believing something are two very different things. And they say that the mantras, so mantras are basically like prayers that have a system to them, because the wording of ancient prayers and ancient mantras are there to basically break open the divine center in you, basically. So what it does is it communicates subconsciously. You're just repeating words and you don't know that it's actually having an effect on you, because those words actually go past the conscious mind and sinks into the superconscious mind, and then it activates your divine self that tends to go dormant when we're on this plane, because it gets covered up by the systems, the society, the family, the friendships, the whatever coverings that we put on. And so what these things do, like pujas, like mantras, like these very specific prayers, is they connect you to your authentic self, your higher self. And so we did pujas. The first time I did a puja, I was like, because no one picked me and I was feeling like a victim. And I was like, well, whatever. And so the guy who ran the pujas came over, because I was just going to sit by myself, fuck you if you don't see that I'm a goddess, again, all compensation, right? And I was like, no, I'm good. I can do this by me. He goes, no. Come on over here. You can be my second goddess, right? And I stared him down the whole time in his face. I was like, I mean, you gonna see I'm a goddess, right? So hilarious. I think about how I responded to things. It's so freaking hilarious to me now. But, and so I did it. So the whole process went past me. Second time, same scenario. Went past me because the whole time I was compensating. Once I decided to surrender to the process instead of feeling a need to behave a certain way so people could not see that I was hurting on the inside, my God, what a process. And I remember the last one that I did, and I ended up doing it with the guy who did the pujas. My first and my last puja was with this guy. I'm not going to say his name because hopefully one of these days I can get you guys to go to the ashram for like a retreat, because I think I'm going to start doing some retreats there. I can bring people. It's so amazing. It was a very, very, very different experience. And I did several pujas with several people. And after my surrendering to the process, it was like I would get up and it was like a knowing. And I don't know what clicked, what changed, what mantra, what I couldn't tell you. I just know that something about me was definitely different. And even now, I haven't done a puja in about 5 months, 6 months, and I still feel that way. And I cannot wait to get back to Sri Kali Ashram, just so that I can just be in that experience again. It's so beautiful. And I actually want to learn to do them because I want to be able to share them with others. So that was the puja. The other thing that we did at the ashram that I remember the experience, oh my God, it was so crazy. And I remember talking to the teacher that was teaching. We were doing the sun salutations. So for you who don't know, sun salutations, or it's Surya Namaskar is what it's called, Surya Namaskar. And there are 12 poses. Most people do the exact same pose, but at our ashram, there were 2 poses that were changed because they go back to the Kaula system or the Shaivic system, which is from like northern, like the Kashmir area in India, northern India, and the Kashmiri system, as we call it. And so in yoga, what we don't know in the West, if you're doing yoga at like a athletic studio or something like this, there are mantras to each pose, because like I said, yoga was created for us to connect to our divine self. So we're doing Surya Namaskar, and we're doing the mantras, right? The only other time that I got to do mantras in yoga was my first time ever doing yoga in 2009. And I went to a yoga studio here in Houston called Jin Yoga. And one of the instructors, I want to say her name was Geeta, I may be wrong. She was from India. And she had planned to teach me the mantras, but I couldn't afford to keep going back, so I never learned them. But she did some of the mantras in class for one of the series that we were doing, which was in Syria at the time. And I just remember I fell asleep at the end, and I think I was knocked out for about 10 minutes. And I woke up and everyone was gone. I was like, oh my God, why didn't you wake me? That's how impactful the experience was. So fast forward, 10 years later, and I am doing Surya Namaskar, and we're doing the mantras, which, by the way, you can look the mantras up on YouTube. I'll put a link somewhere in the description box, and it actually goes through the mantras. So we were doing a pose called Ashtanga Namaskar, where you put your chest on the floor. It's called the 5-pointed pose. So your forehead is on the floor, your chest is on the floor, your 2 palms are on the floor, and your knees are on the floor. And the first time I did that pose, and to this day, every single time I do that pose, I had this experience of being the worshiper and the worshipped. I have never in my life it was like, it felt like an out of body experience. And I'll never, ever to this day forget that experience that I had. And I understood then, and that was that same day we ended up doing a puja that night. And coupled with the puja, I will never, ever not experience myself as divine. I was like, yo, this is like the business. I really need to share this with people. I was sharing yoga with my mom when I first got home, and we got slack, so we got to get back into it. And she absolutely loves it, And she never thought, she was like anti-yoga before. She's like, oh, that's the devil, And now she's like, yo, when we doing yoga again, I was like, I get it, because you go through the process over and over again, and you begin to shed off stuff. You begin to become aware of yourself, your big self, and you are becoming aware of the little self's control and what it does to make it feel big, right? So that's another way. So yoga, mantras, or when I say yoga, I'm thinking ancient practices like, yoga, tai chi, kung fu, capoeira, these sort of things. And there may be other ones. I don't know all of them. The ones that I'm speaking about are actually ones that I'm interested in. Belly dancing, mantras, we all have them. Jews have them, Muslims have them, Christians have them, like the Lord's Prayer, Buddhists and Hindus, people from the Zoroastrian practices, ancient, like all of those ancient practices, they all have mantras that go along with them. We call them prayers today, but that's what they are. They have a certain way of saying things or expressing things that it goes past your subconscious or your superconscious. So I'm not talking about your personal prayer time, like where you like, dear God, la 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 la. No, I'm talking about very specific mantras and prayers. So like for Christians, it's the Lord Prayer. For the Muslims, they have another prayer. The Jews have another prayer. There's a list of them, and I'll maybe on the next one or one of my podcasts, I'll talk about it. That you do, and what it does is it's the way that those mantras are worded. They help you connect to your divine self. And so again, the more you connect to your higher self, your authentic self, your divine self, I use these words interchangeably, the more you let go of living in an external vacuum or externally, or attached to your external being. You begin to let those things fall off and allow yourself to honor who you really are and to express that and live that through. So that was that. So rituals is another way. Rituals are amazing. I love my rituals. So puja is considered a ritual with mantras, right? And yoga is also is something like a ritual. It's a physical aspect of one with mantras when you add the mantras. And if you guys practice yoga, ask your yoga teacher. Like when you go in, if they were trained, especially if they were trained overseas, you ask. You be like, hey, I heard that each pose has its own mantra. What is it? And you can practice it that way. So to recap, what this podcast, this particular one, was about was knowing your worth versus knowing you're worthy. Knowing your worth objectifies you. It puts a value on something that has no value. And I'm not saying like you're valueless, but what I am saying is you're priceless. You're priceless. And when you attach your being or your person or who you are to a value, you diminish who you are. And when you know that you are worthy, you understand that there is nothing you can do who your ethnicity, your gender, your religious background, your money, your wealth or unwealth, or whatever you begin to understand, none of those things matter. They cannot make you more or less worthy. You are worthy by reason of birthright. You were born worthy, and everyone is born worthy. We lose that sense of worthiness because of our experiences and our conditionings, and our compensations. But the inner being that's inside of you knows it and never not knows it. So the one thing you need to always listen to is that core, your center. Always go back to your core. Always go back to your center. And when you do that, it really frees you from the obligations and expectations of the external world. Okay? So I really hope that when you're listening to my voice and when you listen to this podcast, and sometimes I ramble, I know, that it's something you need to hear. It's something that you may have been looking for or searching for, and all of a sudden it comes together for you. Because I think the universe, that when I start to seek, the things showed up. And sometimes I had to decipher between what was divine and what wasn't. But even the things that are not divine, you can still learn from them. And I never ever want to be so hoity that I can't learn from even the smallest of things, or what we consider the smallest of things. And I really would like to leave you with a couple of quotes before I end this. And one of the quote is from the Bhagavad Gita, and it says, "You are what you believe in." Another one is, this one is from Eartha Kitt, which I loved Eartha Kitt. She says, "My recipe for life is not being afraid of myself, afraid of what I think or my opinions." And for the longest time, I think this resonated with me so strongly. For a longest time, it wasn't that I was afraid of failure. I was afraid of success. I was afraid of who I really was and allowing that person to shine. And I know some of you have had these experiences or have these thoughts. So let her shine, let him shine, let them shine. Be willing to open yourself up, break free from this thing called reality, and be true to who you are, because there is a purpose for your life. There's a purpose for your being. There's a purpose for you being here. And there are things that you carry within yourself that none of us carry, but we all need. So until next time, my loves, this is Tanisha signing off with the AHA Experience podcast.